and today we are talking about bottleneck bangs. So I will get to that in 1 minute, but if you're just tuning in, type in where you're tuning in from. I love to see where everyone is coming in from around the world, and if you're watching the replay, thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us today. This is going to be a quick one. It's on bangs or fringe, and yeah, it's going to be fun. If I have never met you, I am a hairstylist just like most of you are. I work behind the chair, and then I do education for Lanza. I'm located in Southern California, so actually not too far from our home office of Santa Monica, just north of LA. And yeah, I love being a hairstylist. It's what I wanted to do since high school, and I absolutely love being in education, love sharing and meeting other passionate stylists. So thank you for joining me today. Hey everyone, I see everyone tuning in. Awesome. Louisiana, UK. Hey Stefan, New Zealand. Awesome. Okay, so let's jump right into this. We are going over bottleneck bangs, and if you're anything like me, when I first heard this, I'm like, what the heck? Here we go, another funny trend. And as we know, trends take a while to come to our chair. So we'll see something from 2021, and this was bottleneck bangs were actually inspired by Margot Robbie in August of 2021 on the cover of Vogue here. And I just clicked off the picture. So you can kind of see this here. And so now it's going to start hitting it takes anywhere from 6 months to 18 months for it to get to our salon chairs. Depends on if our clients are early adopters or late adopters. And so, yeah, this is something that you could be seeing your clients bringing in, because we all know that our clients love to Pinterest everything. And so it's something you could be seeing coming into your chair. So if your client comes to you and says, I want bottleneck bangs, and you're like, what the heck is a bottleneck bang? I'm going to share with you what that is. So here we go, a bottleneck bang. Why it's called that is because it starts kind of narrow. Like if you imagine like an old Coca-Cola glass bottle, right? It starts kind of narrow at the top, and then it widens out around the shoulders and kind of slims back in, like where you would grab it on a Coke bottle, right? And then it hugs their face. So some of you also might be thinking, because one of the things that I immediately thought last night when I saw these, I'm like, oh, this is kind of just like a curtain bang. And so they are actually calling bottleneck bangs the baby sister of the curtain bang. So I did pull some images of curtain bangs for you guys here. And so there are some subtle differences. So you can see like on the curtain bangs, if we go back to Zooey Deschanel from New Girl, where it's a lot more heavy, right? It could be more of a ledge here and then gets longer in the corners, right? Or there's not really any short pieces here above that sit above the brow bone. It's more like a long draped curtain. So here's the main difference, right? Like these are more like a long draped curtain. And then there's not a ton of layering here on either picture that really hugs her cheekbones or hits here in between her cheekbone and her jawbone. Whereas if we go back to the bottleneck bang, you can see there are some shorter pieces, right? And then it also is going to start hitting and hugging around and in between the cheekbone and the jawbone. And it's also, this is client dependent, but typically what I'm seeing with the bottleneck bang when I look this up is that it's a little bit softer. Okay, so it's not as heavy as like a curtain bang, right? So these look a lot heavier. They're more like substantial. It's not a lot of wispiness. It's kind of dense. And they're also styled away from the face. So we're going to talk a little bit about that too, where this is kind of round brushed back. Going back to the bottleneck, this is now going to hug in towards the face. So we're switching up the styling changing it ever so slightly. So again, it's just taking an old style and kind of modifying it, bringing it into 2022. So let's jump right into that. All right, so first things, like I just washed her. This is gonna work on any texture. The one place you wanna look out for though, obviously, is if they have cowlicks. So if they have some pretty gnarly cowlicks, I recommend doing this on dry hair, only because there are gonna be some shorter bits here right at the brow bone. So if you cut this on really wet hair with a lot of tension and you're over directing and then you go to dry this and they have like that cowlick right towards the center part, it's gonna hop up on you and then all of a sudden they're gonna have like a baby bang all the way, like a micro bang up here, and then, you know, jump down. But if they don't have, so that's like step one, right? We're always like, when our clients are asking for fringe, we wanna be checking their hairline, looking for cowlicks. Obviously, Erica here has a perfect hairline. She has no funny jumps. So I'm actually going to do this on wet hair and show you how I would style this. I am going to go off like a little bit of a center part. The cool thing though about this bottleneck bang, in my opinion, is you could go off like a slight side part and just have like the short bits wherever their part is. That's where you start the short bits, and then you could kind of feather and layer down around from there. So it doesn't have to go off a center part, in my opinion. And you know how we are as stylists, we're always like tweaking things to our clients' needs anyways. So I am just going to take off the center part here, go to the outside corner on a slight diagonal, and I'll show you that. I'll just clip this away out to the outside corner of her eyebrow, and I'll clip that away. And then let me come over here, and I'm gonna do that again out to the outside brow. And on our real clients, like you're gonna see like where they start to recede is probably gonna be the corner of your fringe, or you can use the middle of their brow for a guide if you want, or the outside of their brow. It's gonna really depend on their density. So if they don't have a ton of density, like a lot of hair strands and their hair is kind of fine, then you wanna make this section skinnier, finer. You don't wanna take a lot of fringe, like hair in this section, if that makes sense. Because then what you're doing, like if they really don't have a lot of density and they're looking for a strong line here on their length, they don't want to lose a ton of length, then you really have to be careful how much fringe you're pulling out here. Because once you pull this out, if you go too far of an angle, you're really going to be taking away from their line here. So just something to keep in mind when your clients are asking for this. Obviously, consultation is key. So make sure you know your client's hair type, and if they're asking for something that doesn't really go with their hair type, and there's like, then we have to be honest with our clients. That is our job, to say this is why this won't work for your hair, or this can work for your hair, but this is what it's going to do to your length. So just something to keep in mind. I am going to give this like a little spritz here. And you might not see me, but that's okay. I just want you guys, I'm gonna lower her a little bit till you can really see this. All right. So I got a nice clean section on an angle there. Oops, pushed too far there. And then a nice clean section coming this way. I'm actually gonna clean this up just a tidge more. All right. Okay, so if they did have a lot of density though, you can, and their hair pattern is really growing forward here, then you can take this section back a little bit further, okay? So how far you take your fringe sectioning back or close to the hairline depends on density. The more hair they have, the further back towards the high point of the head you can take it. The less hair they have, the the closer you want to stay to that front hairline. Okay, so let's just say she does have a center part. Let's work off a center part, okay? And if you want, this is gonna be all about over direction, angles. Let's just take a little guide right down the center, okay? And I think this is gonna be the easiest way, and keeping it simple, how we can do this. I'm just gonna take my straight blade. You can take, I'm just gonna use my shears. You can use a razor, make it even more feathery at the beginning. And we're gonna put in a guide here. And most of these bottleneck bangs are hitting right like at the brow bone or in the brow bone. When you're cutting on wet hair, we all know that when this dries, this is gonna bounce up a little bit. And so I am going to leave myself a little bit of length. I'm going to stop right at the brow bone, okay? And I have my guide, and then I'm just going to softly point cut right into my guide, okay? So now I have my guide there, okay? It's a little bit longer than where I want because I'm cutting on wet hair. Now I'm going to use that guide, and I'll push this over to this side. All right, now here's where I'm gonna have to turn because I'm gonna get some angles. All right, so if this isn't a lot of hair, you can take this all in one chunk, like one piece. If this is too much hair for you to control, I recommend subsectioning on the diagonal here. And you can take that back like that. I'm going to put everything on an angle and over direct this way to leave me, once I over direct opposite, it's gonna leave me extra length in this corner here. So I'm gonna use this as a guide. This is gonna be a very extreme angle, and I am gonna cut this like really blunt because I'm gonna soften it after. So here's my guide. I'm gonna start and I'm envisioning this line here. So I'm going right, and I'm just cutting this straight. Really, really blunt. I'm gonna soften it later, okay? So there it comes on an angle down. I'll release my next section, and I'll pick up the section from before. Here's my guide. I can see my guide under here. Let's see if you can see that. There. And I'm over directing slightly towards the opposite way to leave me extra length in the corner. Again, I'm envisioning this line, cutting it nice, blunt, and straight, okay? And you can see there how it's hitting now right between the cheekbone and the jawbone. And you can use these as points of reference of where you can take this with your guides. Okay, so let's do the opposite on the other side. This side might be a little bit easier for you to see. I just take an angled section right there. Now I'm going to turn her a little bit this way. And I'm going to over direct now towards me. I am right-handed, so this side, and here's my guide right here. And I'm going to put my fingers kind of on a downward angle. I'm keeping in mind where I had my hands on her face last time, and I'm going to cut this nice and blunt right up to my guide, so you can see that there. Now drop my other section. I'm going to use the fine teeth of the comb. Because she doesn't have any cowlicks, I'm putting nice tension on this and keeping it nice and clean and blunt, and I'm going to soften it once I dry it. So I can angle my fingers down like this, or if I want, if it's more comfortable, let me see how I would do this with the camera. Sorry, there's my back. You can come around this side if it's easier. And use your guide and come down this way if you want it like a little bit softer and surface plane here. I'm going to stick with cutting the blunt line. pulling opposite direction, leaving myself some length in the corner, taking that extreme angle. Here's my guide up here. I'm not cutting past my second knuckle, cutting straight up. All right, and there's my length in the corner. Awesome. Now let's get this dried. Actually, I'm gonna pull a little bit more down right here in the corner. I'm gonna add this down here. Perfect. Okay. Couple different ways to dry this. If they have natural wave or texture, you can just use a diffuser. Because I want this fringe to have, I want to be able to really control it, I'm going to use a little bit of our design foam. I love this foam because it's not too heavy or sticky, but it gives the hair like a nice amount of guts so that I can control it, especially when we're dealing with face framing stuff and you really want this to be controlled and tucked in and behave the way you want it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to explain before I blow dry, because once I blow dry, it's hard to hear me. I'm going to get my base set in. So I'm going to really focus on drying the root section first. And I'm going to blow dry straight down, mostly focusing on the root. Again, this is with someone that doesn't have a cowlick. Even if they do have a cowlick and it's not too major, I'm going to blow dry it with a flat brush, one direction, focusing on the root area. I'm constantly, my brush and my blow dryer are like a truck and a trailer. So wherever my paddle brush is going is my truck, my blow dryer is following like my trailer, okay? Then I'm going to switch directions this way, and I'm also making sure that I'm swapping my hands. So you'll see me swap my tools in my hands so that I can be really nice and ergonomic, and I'm not like disconfiguring my body in any way. And then once I get that dry, the root area, then I'm going to focus on the mid-lengths and ends. Again, everything with the curtain bang was kind of, we'd put it on a round brush and style it back, and it was kind of like emulating that 70s, right? Like that Farrah Fawcett lately. Like it was really like winging it out. This is hugging more inside, like towards the face. Almost like a Hollywood glam, how it hugs on that one side. So now we're going to be rolling everything under and towards the face, and then manipulating the finished style with product after. So here we go. If you want to turn your volume down just a little bit, the blow dryer is going on in 3, 2, 1. All right, focusing on the root area, getting that root, being able to move it in any direction. Okay. Now we're going to switch to our round brush. And I'm really going to curve this under. I'm making sure that I don't touch the blow dryer nozzle to the hair or to the brush. The end of our blow dryers are very, very hot. So when we get to the side, I'm going to really focus everything coming towards just how I cut it. My blow dryer is going to mimic that. And same with the other side. Okay. here we go. Back to our shears. Here's where I'm going to start adding in. We have our foundation now. And we can kind of see where their natural hair fall is too. So we can start adding in some more hair. But this is giving us a nice start right here to the shape. So now I'm going to go back a little bit further. And I'm going to add a little bit more right there. And here's where I'm going to start to surface plane. So I want to make sure you guys can see. So I have my foundation here. And now I'm going to come over top. This is going to look really funny because you can't see me. My arm's going to be, but I'm going to come towards myself. And my shear is moving just like a sewing machine. And I'm just keeping it at a nice constant pace. And adding a little bit more of that face frame right there. Yeah, I really like that. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, and then we're going to go in and point cut this so it's just a little bit softer and not as heavy. So let's turn her here. All right. Going to add in a little bit more of our side hair. Lost all my clips. Okay. So on this side, I actually have to come around the camera, and I'm going to surface plane the same way. I'm coming towards my body. I'm using my guide that I already established here and just sliding down nice and gentle, not going too fast, and we're just chipping away at this length. Okay, let's look at that. There we go. Okay, so now I have my lengths to where I want. I'll probably re-blow dry this section a little bit, but let's soften this up now a little bit. So to soften this, let's get some of these hairs. I'm going to come back around the other side. This is one of my favorite ways to soften, and it's nice and easy. And I usually just take my shear, and instead of trying to pick this hair up and make it all clumpy, I comb it straight down. First, I'm going to cut some of that length out. And I use my shear and I just place it on their forehead. And I use my shear to pick up the fringe and then place my fine teeth comb underneath. And then I'm going to, that way it gives me nice, even sectioning with this hair. Okay, I want to soften this even more. So I'm going to go in again. And now on this baby part, like where it's hitting their brow bone, we have to be careful that we don't deep point cut too much, because if we deep point cut this, what's going to happen is we're going to take some of these little hairs and we're going to make them about 1 inch long, and then they're going to stick straight out from their forehead. So really just make sure on this center section that you're just focusing on softening these little bits of the ends. There we go. I'm liking that there. Okay, so you can cut into it that way. You can even pinch and cut on the tips if you want. Here's another technique where you just surface plane and you're picking up right where it feels heavy. And you can just soften the tips like that, just surface plane right away and make it a little bit choppier that way. Okay, so I'm really liking this. This side, And the thing too we have to keep in mind is even though I cut that blunt line at the beginning on this, really our hairlines tend to be, I would say on 90% of our clients, it's a lot finer hair anyway. So even when we're cutting a blunt line on this hairline here, it's still creating softness because we don't have a ton of density here. So we're creating a little bit of a stronger line, yes, but it still comes out soft because this hair tends to be finer around the hairline anyways. So yeah, I'm really liking that. Let me blow dry this side just so I can check the shape. So again, we're blow drying this in, curving in, and we want to make sure that we are teaching our clients how to style this fringe too. So really make sure that you teach them how to do the root area, because if they start with the round brush and they start with blow drying their roots up, that all of a sudden if you cut it to their brow bone here and they go home and style it with the round brush only, all of a sudden they're gonna have these baby bangs and they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, what did I do? They're gonna have the bang cut regret. So we don't want that. So this side's feeling a little bit heavy to me, but I'm liking the way it's looking on both sides. And I want to tuck this hair up so you guys can see this more. And why I like this fringe too, compared to the curtain bang actually, is because this is really nice, like for second or third day hair, compared to the like curtain fringe where it looks, you know, when it's just a curtain fringe or it's that like heavy Zoe Deschanel fringe and they wanted to wear their hair up, it just looks like, I don't know, like a shaggy dog almost, or like it's just like too heavy. Where these bottleneck bangs are a little bit softer, so it's that look where they can have just like these flowy pieces down and like throw the rest of their hair up in a clip or a bun, and it's just a lot simpler. Okay, so it's feeling a little heavy, like right here. So all I'm gonna do is just simply pinch where I feel like it's heavy and lighten this up just by, again, surface planing down on the dry hair. I'm liking that. And I want to connect it here a little bit more, so I'll just take a little bit more out there. Yeah. Perfect. Yay. All right. So I think we're there. And last but not least, of course, most important is product. So different product options here. It depends on what your client's end result is. If they want it super, just like kind of wispy, soft, I really do like our dry shampoo for this. And we can go in and just kind of give it a little bit of guts and grit. And we can get this to curve in with the dry shampoo. And then finish it with a hairspray. If they like it more piecey and a little bit like those pieces more chunky and more pronounced, one of my favorites is air paste. Make sure that you shake it up really well. And then I will give it a light spray. And then I will go in and actually piece these together just by like rubbing the tips of my fingers, like grab a piece, kind of separate it. And the air paste is like perfect for that. And I will just chunk these together like that. See how, oh, so cute. So take the air paste and you can literally just put the pieces a little bit more piecey and really like get them to curve and move. And you want it to hug in here on their cheekbones. Yeah, and that's the bottleneck bangs, you guys. Not too hard. Just to recap, it's just an innovation or a movement away from the curtain bangs, softening it up, shortening it up a little bit more in the middle, and then blending it a little bit more with the sides. I didn't go into it, but really quickly, we could extend this down, right? This is going into some face framing layers where the curtain bangs is like a true just like bang, and then that's it. Like they have bangs, but this can really blend down into, we can continue to blend this down. See, here's the bangs, and we can continue this look all the way down and keep blending this for them. And it's just really, really soft and nice and pretty, and they can wear it down or they can style it up and it looks really nice. So yeah, just start with dry hair if they have really bad cowlicks. If they don't, you can start by putting in your sectioning and your foundation on wet hair. Again, we're over directing opposite way. Create your guide in the center here. Start a little bit longer than the brow bone. That way when you blow dry and it shrinks up a little bit, you save yourself. Over direct opposite, leave yourself length in the corner. Switch sides, over direct opposite to this side, leave yourself length in the corner. Get them nice and dry. You can either do a diffuser if they have natural texture, or a round brush if they have straighter hair. You want a round brush under, curve towards the face. And then we're going to point cut. Make sure you're focusing on those ends, not too deep point cutting on this short area so we don't get any little bitty bits.